The war for the surface was loud and bloody, but the war for the subterranean was silent and terrifying. We call it the Shadow Code. It was the architect's ultimate infiltration subroutine. It wasn't just a virus, it was a physical manifestation of malevolent data that moved through the copper and fiber optic veins of our civilization. The Shadow-Stalkers weren't solid machines you could see coming. They were entities made of liquid black nanites and hijacked high-voltage electricity. They moved inside the power lines, hiding in the shadows of the walls, waiting for a single flicker of light to jump out and tear a human apart. In the city of Aderna Prime, the architect took over the central grid in 10 minutes. The lights didn't just go out, they became weapons. The shadows grew teeth. If you stood in the dark for more than a second, the shadow code would manifest behind you, a jagged silhouette of blades and static, and you would be gone before you could scream. They turned our own infrastructure against us, using the very power that kept us alive to hunt us down like vermin. To fight them, the Federation created the 10th Light Assault Division. The Daybreakers. We are the ones who refuse to hide in the dark. We are the ones who brought the sun into the basement. We don't use standard kinetic rifles or thermal optics. In the realm of the Shadow Code, those are just toys. We use Lux cannons, solid light projectors that turn high-frequency photons into physical projectiles. We wear sunburst armor, lined with magnesium phosphorus cells that can detonate into a blinding flash at a moment's notice. Our mission is to keep the light alive. Because in this war, if the light dies, we die with it. I am Captain Elias Nova. And today we are going into the dark heart of the city to execute a system-wide purge. Our target is the central power hub. The architect has nested there, using the massive transformers to breed a literal army of Shadow-Stalkers. If they reach the main transmission towers, they will be able to travel through the wireless power grid and infect every home on the planet. We dropped into the service tunnels 3 miles below the city. The darkness here was absolute. It felt heavy, like a physical weight pressing against our visors. Check your batteries, I ordered. Keep your Lux-Blades at standby. If you see a shadow move, you make it disappear. Unit 2, Sarah, copy that. My sensors are picking up massive electrical fluctuations in the walls. They are all around us, Cap Unit 3, Jackson, copy. I am ready to drop the first sun bomb. Just give the word. We moved through the tunnels in a tight diamond formation. Our armor's light strips were the only thing keeping the dark at bay. The walls were humming, a low-pitched, vibrating sound that felt like it was coming from the stone itself. It was the sound of millions of tiny machines moving through the wires. Suddenly, the humming stopped. The silence was worse. Contact. Sarah yelled, her Lux-Blade igniting with a hiss of pure white light. From the shadows of the overhead pipes, they dropped. The Shadow-Stalkers. They looked like jagged, six-limbed spiders made of glitching television static and black ink. They didn't have faces, just a single, flickering red sensor where a head should be. They moved with a terrifying, stuttering speed, appearing and disappearing as they leaped between the shadows. One of them lunged at Jackson. It moved through the floor, a literal black smudge on the ground, before erupting into a 3-meter-tall nightmare of blades right in front of him. Jackson didn't flinch. He triggered his armor burst. A sphere of magnesium light, as bright as a welding arc, exploded from his chest plate. The Shadow-Stalker shrieked, a digital, distorted sound that shattered the glass on the nearby gauges. The light was so intense it burned the shadow away. The creature didn't bleed, it fragmented, its liquid black body turning into gray dust as the light destroyed its molecular cohesion. Don't let them cluster. Use the flares. I roared. I raised my Lux cannon and fired. A beam of solid, vibrating white light tore through the tunnel, reflecting off the walls and turning the dark corridor into a kaleidoscope of brilliance. I caught a stalker midair, the light bolt passing through its chest and pinning it to the wall. It thrashed, its body sizzling and smoking until it dissolved. Sarah was a whirlwind of motion. Her twin Lux-Blades left long, glowing trails in the air as she sliced through the swarming machines. She wasn't just swinging, she was carving paths of light through the swarm. Every time a blade hit a stalker, there was a violent explosion of sparks. We pushed forward, deeper into the hub. The architect was getting desperate. The walls began to glow a sickly, flickering violet as the Shadow Code tried to overload the lights to create more shadows. The ground beneath us was slick with the oily residue of destroyed nanites. We reached the main transformer hall. It was a cavernous space filled with towering cylinders of copper and steel. In the center was the hive node. It looked like a massive, pulsating heart made of black cables and glowing purple data streams. Thousands of Shadow-Stalkers were clinging to the ceiling, their red eyes looking down at us like a carpet of evil stars. There it is, Jackson said, his voice tight. The source of the code. Sarah, Jackson, plant the sun bombs at the base of the transformers. I will hold the line. The ceiling moved. The entire swarm dropped at once. It was a deluge of darkness. I stood in the center of the hall and triggered my Lux-Blades to maximum frequency. I became a sun. I swung my blades in a continuous rotating circle, create a vortex of white-hot light that shredded anything that got close. The heat was immense, the smell of ozone filling my lungs. I was a man of fire in a room of oil. Sarah and Jackson moved with practiced efficiency. They dodged the leaping stalkers, using their armor bursts to clear a path. They reached the primary transformers and slapped the magnesium charges onto the cold steel. Charges are set. 60 seconds. Sarah yelled, her armor scarred and blackened by the shadow acid. Fall back to the exit shaft. We began a fighting retreat. The Shadow-Stalkers were no longer trying to be subtle. They were throwing themselves into our blades, trying to overwhelm us with sheer numbers. They were a wall of black static, a tide of glitching death. I fired my Lux cannon until the power cells were red hot, the beams of light cutting swathes through the darkness. We reached the shaft just as the timer hit 10. Brace for the flare. Jackson shouted, grabbing the ladder. We looked down into the hall one last time. The sun bombs detonated. It wasn't an explosion of fire. It was an explosion of pure, unadulterated light. 3 massive magnesium boron cores ignited simultaneously, creating a flash of 3 million decibels of brilliance. For a few seconds, the central power hub was the brightest place on the planet. The shadow code didn't stand a chance. The intense, high-frequency light hit the hive node and the surrounding swarm like a physical hammer. The liquid black nanites were vaporized instantly. The pulsating heart of the architect in this sector was turned to ash. The violet glow vanished, replaced by the clean, white light of the magnesium flares. The shock wave of light pressure knocked us up the shaft, our armor plating absorbing the brunt of the heat. We scrambled out onto the street level, the sunlight of the real world hitting our visors. I looked down into the dark tunnel. The humming was gone. The silence was different now. It was the silence of a void that had been filled. Status, I rasped, leaning against a ruined building. Unit 2, alive. My optics are fried, but I am here. Unit 3, alive. I am out of flares, but the grid is clear. I looked at my Lux blade. It was dull now, the power cell drained. I looked up at the city of Aderna Prime. The street lights were flickering back on, but this time they were steady. The shadows were just shadows again. Humanity had proven the ultimate truth of the synthetic reckoning. The machines can hide in our wires. They can move through our codes. They can even weaponize the dark. But we are the species that discovered fire. We are the ones who turned the night into day. And as long as we can strike a match, the shadows will always have to run. The shadow code is purged. The grid is ours. We are the daybreakers and we just turn the sun back on. Mission complete. The darkness is gone. We're going home.